I have been thinking about the conflict between Hamas and Israel, and sort of waited and thought about it for a long time. First, let me express my own prejudices. I was 2 years old when, or 3 years old when Israel became a country, so I didn't have that initial phase. But I've always, I was familiar with the Holocaust, and I was delighted by the fact that Israel had a place for Jews to go that welcomed them. And that in general, even people like Golda Meir showed some balance in their approach to world affairs. Benjamin Netanyahu, not so much. He's clearly an extreme Israeli nationalist and Zionist, and I think probably has not ever liked a two-state solution. But let's be clear. Palestinians were there for at least 2,000 years and more. The Israelis, which were basically thrown out of their own country in 70 AD and following by the Romans, it still remains their ancestral home as well. One thing I'd like to say is I hope they do a better job of it than the Old Testament or the Hebrew Scriptures. The Hebrew Scriptures makes God seem like they're, well, go ahead and take it, it's yours. And the killing of a number of kings and whatnot, not a very balanced view from the Hebrew Scriptures. But that said, I have most of my life delighted in Israel as a sort of balance for the terror, the horror of the Holocaust. That said, in my later life, I developed a relationship with the Palestinian family. A lot of Palestinians are Christian, and most of them that are Christian have left Israel because unless you're an evangelical nut case, you're not really welcome as a Christian. You're kind of third one on the list. Now that's just a general statement that probably isn't true in some ways. But I will tell you that this Palestinian physician, actually, he told me about his father who had an orchard near Haifa, and they took his orchard. Didn't compensate him, didn't do anything, they just took it. Years later, this Palestinian friend was trying to get into med school, and he was trying to get into the state med school, and he was interviewed by a Jewish physician in order to do that, and they got into a bit of a kerfuffle because, you know, I mean, he told him about his father's orchard, and apparently from his reporting, I don't know any other way, Um, this Jewish doctor just said, never happened. We never did that. Nobody would do that to Palestinians. Now, this was probably 25, 30 years ago. So I learned a lot from this Palestinian family. And I appreciated the way, began to appreciate the way that Israelis operate in their prejudice against Palestinians. We talk a lot about the prejudice of Palestinians against the Jewish people in Israel, but we don't talk too much about the other way. But clearly what's happened in at least the last 20 years of Netanyahu and his right-wing extremist government is to occupy and to denigrate their understanding of the humanity of Palestinians. Okay, all that's just to let you know where I'm coming from. The simple fact is that Palestinians and Israelis have to live together. And probably neither group is doing a very good job of it at this point. Sorry, Netanyahu, but probably some kind of sovereignty is going to have to be given to the Palestinians. And it can't be this, oh, yeah, you can have sovereignty, but you can't have a military. No, that doesn't work. It's not going to happen. They have to have a sense of self-protection. And as long as Israel gets to run Palestine, even from a distance, it's not going to work. It just isn't going to work. You can't do that. Look at Northern Ireland and you realize it's taken a long time to deal with the prejudice of Protestant and Roman Catholic communities toward each other. Now, it's been the Protestant communities in Northern Ireland have had more power, but, you know, that's slowly but surely getting diluted by the fact that Roman Catholics are beginning to number more and more. But the fact is, those two people are going to have to live together. And in order to do that, it has to be real. I mean, there has to be some real sovereignty. And so all of the plans which Israel has been party to so far have been to, their arguing point is, well, the Palestinians walked away when we gave them a chance. Well, you look at what the Israelis gave them, and it was not sovereignty. It wasn't a sense of nationhood. It wasn't a sense of taking care of one's own security. So, can you blame Palestinians for not agreeing to that kind of bad deal? Maybe it's the only deal they were ever going to get, but if they took it, what do they do with their self-worth? Well, they still have to live together, and it's going to be a harder and harder road because of the machinations of Bibi Netanyahu and his extreme Zionist people. They have reduced the idea of Palestinians in the Israeli population to less than human. Pretty hard to live together if you don't see somebody as human. But they're still going to have to live together. They're going to have to live together. The land did not belong to the Jews who moved in. And they didn't buy it all. They just took some of it. They did buy some of it. Regardless, they're there. Palestinians are there. Let the two people live together. And the only way you can do that is to stop this denigration of the other. Now, most of the arguments I've heard, Bill Maher recently, he was saying, well, they walked away from the solutions that they were offered. Well, they were offered a one-sided solution to their problems. And, how many of us have ever done that? Are we going to take what somebody gives us, even though it's really crumbs under the table? Well, perhaps if we feel we have to. At this point, you have two, I think, incredibly bright ethnicities that, if they ever got to working together, would be unstoppable. But furthermore, they have to live together, and the way that Israel has gone for the last 20 years is, they assassinated Rabin, and then they ran away from the possibility of recognizing Palestinians. And yet they're still going to have to live with them. Come on. Wake up. You're there. You're not going to be able to take the land from the Canaanites, as the Hebrew scriptures said. It's just not going to happen. Now, you can do it. You're powerful enough to do it. You have the national security devices in which to do that. But should you? No. You're going to have to live with these people. They're going to be part of your life, like it or not. Now that you've degraded the Israeli understanding of them as subhuman, you're going to have a lot harder time of it, but you're going to have to work with that, and you're going to have to bring it back. And you're going to have to let relationships develop that give each side the humanity that it deserves, and ultimately the sovereignty. Anyway, been thinking about it for a long time. I understand that the American position is to support Israel. It is, after all, the only democracy operating in the entire Middle East. And we also have a long history of supporting Israel. And we should. I'm not against that. But for a long time now, we've seen that Israel doesn't behave itself in the way that a nation should with its neighbors. It has allowed settlers to traumatize and intimidate and to just do what they want to in the East Bank and the West Bank and I suppose even in Gaza to a certain extent. I make no excuses for Hamas's behavior on the 7th. But they too are going to have to do what Bibi Netanyahu has refused to do, which is recognize there are human beings over there, and they are not monsters. They are going to want sovereignty. And, okay, I will say this. Israel has a token of sovereignty, but it is the European colonialist idea of sovereignty at this point. It doesn't work. Even its the Arab population within Israel are, in a number of ways, second-class citizens. Not going to work. You can't live together that way. Resentment builds over time. You can only be human to each other and live together in that way. Anyway, blessings to them. I say my prayers for them all the time. But I just felt I needed to share that. Thank you.